Hello everybody and welcome back to the P1 podcast with man Tommy. We are here today in a meeting room, so the audio might not be the best. The backdrop might be a little bit strange and we might have to be a little bit on the quiet side when we're talking, but we are committed to bringing you F1 review content. And we didn't do it last night because everything finished so late, and to be honest, we said, we're going to go out, we're going to party in Vegas. And the old man that was me was like, no, it's 1:30, I'm ready for bed. And you were to bed very soon after as well.
By the time we walked back, I was so tired that, pretty much called it in. But it's been a very incredible week. Obviously, we started our road trip with Red Bull Racing on that Grand Tour.
And I'm wearing the Grand Toro t-shirt right now.
Lovely.
Repping it. It's a lovely t-shirt.
It feels about 3 months ago we started that road trip. So that's why I'm very tired. But what an experience it's been.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, we started in Pebble Beach about 8 days ago in California, and then we went on this incredible road trip with PokerStars and Oracle Red Bull Racing, the Grand Toro, and we ended up in Vegas on Wednesday evening, and then we were able to enjoy what was quite possibly the best race of the season. So we've had a rather lovely week. I hope you've enjoyed all of the social media stuff we've been putting out as well, because we've loved sharing our journey with you. Right, before we get into the usual chatter, and of course the Las Vegas Grand Prix, as you might be aware, we do the 5-star review thing, and we did a meetup at our hotel yesterday, and a lovely listener gave us a 5-star review physical. So we've taken a picture of it, and we're going to read that out right now. 5-star review from Amy and Andrew in Adelaide, Australia. Man Tommy, you guys are amazing. We were so excited to meet you in person in Vegas. As relatively new fans, okay, the handwriting is a little bit difficult. As relatively new fans to the sport, we have found your content to be super engaging whilst informative, and your podcast has really grown our love for the sport. Matt, as a fellow Charles Leclerc fan, I feel like I see myself in all your reactions to the highs and lows, mainly lows, of being an all-in Ferrari fan. The pain is real. Tommy, we loved your injection of sass here and there, and especially your use of phrases like having a mare and washed, which we have now incorporated into our Australian lingo. Keep up the good work, boys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What an amazing... Sorry I couldn't really read, but there we go. We got the review out of the way. Right, big question, straight out the bat, Tommy. Did Las Vegas deliver?
Yes, it did. I mean, in terms of a good race, it is almost completely like to a T what we said in our podcast when we were sort of doing an everything you need to know about the race, because a lot of people were roasting the track, being like, it looks like Spider Pig, like, looks really boring. And
what's wrong with Spider Pig? I'd love to know.
I know. And, it's not the greatest driver's track. I think Max Verstappen has made that very clear this weekend. But we said, didn't we, that if we get a Baku, it was suddenly everyone will love it. And we got a Baku, basically.
We did. I think I said it's kind of like a simplified Baku in a lot of ways. Like, there are a few fiddly sections, but realistically, a lot of it is flat out. I think it's like 70% full throttle, if I'm not mistaken. And it's not a driver's track, it's not a Spa, it's not a Silverstone. You don't go, look at that corner. But it's almost, because of the fact they're forced into quite a simple layout with the fact that they're doing it around Vegas, it's sort of promoted really good racing.
And kept the cars close as well.
It kept the cars close. It was low grip. The temperatures were lower, which actually perhaps helped some drivers, Ferrari being one team. But yeah, it was that simple kind of, they couldn't break out of DRS. We saw that in the front battle. And we haven't seen that this year. No. For example, Perez taking the lead, you're like, well, that's it. Charles going to overheat his tyres and Ferrari's done. Next thing you know, he's in the slipstream and he gains half a second. Even when he didn't have DRS, he'd just get a distant tow from 1.2, 1.3 seconds. And next thing you know, it's 7, 8 tenths. And then he's taking the lead. And we had so many changes of position for the lead let alone everywhere else as well. So I don't think anyone can argue that Vegas didn't deliver, because as much as there was a lot of people online that wanted it to fail, which I don't get it. I've said it before on the podcast and I'll say it again. I don't understand for those that really want it to fail, because it's here. They've signed the deal. It's a 10-year deal. We're Formula One fans. We want to make it work. There are tweaks that I think need to be made. There are improvements, and we'll get onto that. But to want it to fail, and if anyone says anything negative about the race itself, I don't know where they're really getting that criticism from.
No, I put that I personally, and maybe this was the hype of being there, but for me, may well have been the best race of the season. I think it's a toss-up between that and Singapore. Singapore, you had the obviously battle for the lead again, but maybe it felt a bit more like it was just even though it was incredibly thrilling, it was more like Carlos just like defending, and it was like
a Monza when Ricciardo won and Gasly won.
Yeah,
it was
that tense kind of race, but this one was like action packed, and I loved like the constant changing of the lead and things like that, which we'll get into later.
Question from CFC Craig: do you think people have changed their minds on Las Vegas?
Yes.
I think the majority will have. We said this. We said Vegas needs to be a banger after the chaos that we saw on Thursday or Friday, if you're watching in Europe, where we were all kicking off quite rightly. That part is still a criticism with how they handled it and this, that, and the other, and how they treated the fans. But if we're talking about the racing, it's a different story. So changing their minds on Las Vegas as a whole, maybe not, because there's plenty of things that people don't like. The cringy nature of how they do things, even though that clip of Sergio Perez getting shouted at by the announcer is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. The way he looks around and then he's like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like he felt so awkward, and this guy just like properly brute force shouted at him down. It was quite funny. For me, like, I don't mind the sort of weird way in which they do their thing. Like they're embracing their culture. If they do things very, very over the top. I wouldn't want it every week, but it is like it's the US Grand Prix. Now we have 3 at the moment. We might have 15 in 10 years' time. That might be a bit too much, but for me it's different. Like you're putting Perez in a different kind of situation there, and it created quite a bit of funny content. But overall, to answer the question, I think on the racing side, people will now look forward to Las Vegas.
Yes, and we, looking at just the questions that you guys gave us for this podcast, it very much seemed like it was kind of like, you saw some that was like, should Vegas be the finale? Should we get rid of Miami now because Vegas is great? And it just shows that like, one banging race, and everyone's like, let's keep Vegas then.
Yeah, absolutely. Isaac_M, what do you think was the greatest factor in what made the race so exciting? Was it the abnormal track temperature or something else like the layout? Now, I think we've kind of touched upon that. For me, I believe it is literally just the fact that even though it's the second longest track on the calendar, it didn't really feel that way. It felt like, you had those sort of tight, awkward sections in the first part of the lap, but then you're almost immediately back on a straight, and they're kind of bunched up together again with the use of slipstream. I think it definitely helped with the low track temperature for us to have like a close battle between Ferrari and Red Bull. Without that low track temperature, Red Bull would have been on their own. Verstappen probably would have dominated, and we'd be talking very differently about Las Vegas.
Yep.
So that in itself, I think, having that competitiveness is something that us F1 fans are latching onto and going, well, Vegas is the greatest thing that's ever been created now because of the fact we had a close race. I'm not sold on the track. We've had people like Verstappen. In terms of the actual, you look at it and you go, it's not over. You don't look at it and go, wow, oh my goodness me, I'm really looking forward to that. It's the racing that it produces, which is the thing we are all here for. It doesn't matter really how it looks in some ways. Like, I don't think we're sold by it either. But...
No, like that I've not, drove it on like the F1 game and stuff because it's on that. And had a go when we were in the Red Bull Hospitality. They had it on the Sims there, and driving it, I was like, I can see where the drivers don't like this. It's essentially a lot of like, I guess, straights are boring for Formula One drivers, and then when there are corners, they're a bit clumsy. But that's what made it so good for the racing. And I think the fact that, and I will I think this is further proof that Formula One needs to mix it up on circuits, because everyone roasted Vegas for having a quite unique and weird layout, but it just shows that give something a bit different and you get a different result, being Max wasn't 40 seconds ahead, he was 2 seconds ahead. But still, like, we literally saw a battle between 3 cars to the lead, swapping positions. No one could break away, even when Max got past at the start, which we'll get into later, couldn't get away. And I think that's just the nature of like the slipstreaming, the DRS. There weren't any like silly corners where like you immediately like someone can get away, and that's what I think made it so good.
Yeah, it was interesting because Hamilton coming into this weekend was saying it's going to be very similar to Monza in the sense of, very difficult to overtake. You can't really actually gain too much speed over your opponent ahead because they've got no downforce on the car. But I don't think it was actually anywhere near as bad as what Hamilton was predicting.
The straight is so long.
The straight is so long, and the slipstream effect felt stronger than what you would see in Monza. Like we saw in Monza, cars were able, like Albon and Williams were able to stay ahead of cars without DRS or anything like that, whereas they were, we saw Williams, they fell away. It definitely provided a different set of racing that perhaps we thought with how little downforce they were running. But overall, I think there was a lot of factors. I don't think you can just say one thing. The tyres obviously were reacting slightly differently to perhaps what we thought. I didn't think any of us thought we'd see the hard tyres, for example.
No.
But that worked really well for Red Bull, for example. Ferrari, I'm not surprised. They whack on hard tyres and things just don't go to plan. But yes, plenty of factors. Right, let's go to my most memorable moment then, shall we? And it was the fact we had a battle for the lead.
What else is?
Oh, exciting! And of course, about more specifically, Charles Leclerc was in battling for the lead, and I actually had hope and belief. But now I realise that you have your delusion levels, and then you have actual belief, and when it then doesn't happen as well, it hurts twice as much. A question from opinionated SF19: Checo got dive bombed by Charles twice at turn 14. Was it the layout of the track in that area that made it difficult to cover those moves? Especially on the last lap, it was obvious Charles would try a move. Now, of course, this is the last lap. This was, as he said, twice, but most importantly was the final lap. What a move. I am still thinking about it. As I tweeted, if that had been for the win, I would have literally disintegrated. But I nearly did anyway.
Out of the Red Bull hospitality for two.
Yeah. Honestly, that was the most challenging thing of my whole Formula One career, is trying to maintain like some kind of. I respect that I'm in the Red Bull hospitality, but I'm literally just going.
Watching Charles Leclerc race both Red Bulls, and in the Red Bull hospitality, you couldn't make it up.
I didn't hold it back much, but thankfully they didn't throw me out. So thank you, Red Bull, for that. But yeah, the first time, I can understand Checo getting overtaken in that corner. The second time, I can't. If I'm going to put Max Verstappen in that situation, I would bet on him 99 times out of 100 that he would not get overtaken by Charles Leclerc and lose that position over the line.
No.
Perez didn't even feint a little, because that's what a lot of drivers do, right? They feint a little bit of a defence and then move back over to the racing line. Checo just was like focusing on the braking zone, fine, whatever. But Charles just absolutely sent it into there and managed to slow it down. And then you have a shorter run. If it's a normal race before the last lap, you're obviously thinking, right, can he get me back into the next corner? Can he get back into turn 1, whatever. For this, it's literally just a shootout to the line. And there's not as much of an opportunity to get back. So for me, Checo's left the door open. He's lost to Alonso as well previously. So I think on one hand, I can't say too much bad about Checo's drive because I think it actually was really good, and I'm really, really happy for him. But I think he will be kicking himself slightly that he gave away that Red Bull 1-2 right at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe part of him was thinking that the last thing I need here is to maybe cover him off, collide, and he's on a better run of form now, just bagging a podium, which we've not seen in what feels like a very long time for Checo. So for him to be racing at the front again, maybe he was just more content on just settling and bagging some points. I think he got just completely caught unaware that Charles was going to go for that move, because I think I think it was more that it was a brilliant move from Charles than it was a bad defense from Checo, like on this question. And I think Checo was also unfortunate. He was actually unfortunate in a weird way because he obviously got very fortunate with the safety car timing, which put him into the lead. But he had a different setup to Max where he was running a lot more wing. And I wonder how much when he got into the lead, he was like, I wish I had Max's wing now, because he was a bit of a sitting duck sometimes. Like we saw how easily Max breezed past Checo. Obviously, Checo was never going to put in a very extreme defense or anything like that. But yeah, it was, and something I literally just remembered happening was Max actually dropping back to sort of try and give him a bit of a slipstream. He didn't go enough that he gave him the DRS or something like that, but it was actually quite surprising for Max to basically give it a go. He didn't go completely out of his way to help him, but he still made, said, I'll give it my best shot.
Yeah, well, the team requested him to stay 2.5 seconds ahead of Perez to give him a slight distant tow. I think he dropped to about 1.7, 1.8, so he actually did more than what the team asked him to do. But the problem was Charles then took that position into the final corner, and then it was actually Max that was towing Charles along towards the line. So it didn't work out the way that perhaps they were hoping, but it was great to see Max do that, to play the team game. And Checo's first stint as well got him very much in the mix for that. Of course, it's a street track. You can expect a safety car, and Checo was in the lead by I think 14 seconds or something at one point, and of course having that safety car brought him right into play. Vettel Laporte now comes into the question. Do we reckon Charles nabs a fairly comfortable win if it wasn't for the safety car? We know the answer. Sorry, Matt, in brackets. I don't think it's a comfortable win by any stretch of the imagination. The Ferrari was not quick on the hard tyres. That's what I noticed almost immediately when Charles came out the pits with fresh hard tyres and was ahead of Sainz, and the gap wasn't extending. I was like, okay, those new hards are not switching on like I was maybe hoping. And even with Max getting stuck behind Zhou Guanyu for a little while and he was in traffic, the gap was still coming down to Charles, who was in the net lead at the time. So no, I don't think it's a fairly comfortable win. I think that he has a much better chance of winning the race for sure. And I think it goes down maybe into the last lap and they're fighting because he'll have those fresher tyres. Instead, he was on 5-lap-old hard tyres when the safety car came out. Perez and Verstappen pit for brand new tyres. Charles stays out because they're kind of forced into that in some ways. So I'm not even going to be harsh with Ferrari here because it's such an awkward time for the safety car to be brought out where the tyres aren't old, but they're not brand new. But if he pit, Perez would then have the lead. So I can see, and I'm not even going to roast Ferrari at all for why they kept him out, because I think as a fan, I would have probably said the same thing, that he had to stay out.
Yeah, he did. It was crazy how much he was chopping and changing between, what looked like at the start going, and we'll get into this, the controversy of turn one, Verstappen getting into the lead, and it's like, well, surely he's just going to go off now. Then for it to kind of change again, where Charles came back, Max ended up actually behind Russell, which was a surprise in the stops. I guess he had that penalty, didn't he? And then it was like, oh, Checo's leading. Surely he's got this in the bag. And Charles was there, like the safety car obviously didn't help him, and it helped the Red Bulls. But they weren't, the way Max caught him on that hard tyre showed that I don't think it was just, like this person said, like a comfortable win at all by any stretch. I don't think it would have been. And maybe, in an alternate universe where there's no safety car, we see Max chasing Charles for the win on like the final laps, like you say, which would have been quite something.
I think I would have discombobulated.
Yes, yeah. And also I think we did literally have that moment, didn't we, where, well, this is how much we love our job and doing the content with you guys, because we were there at the Grand Prix, absolutely loving it, of course, but there was like that bit in my head that was going, this is the only race we've not done Twitch this year, and it's Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen battling for the win.
Yeah, I was gutted as well. I genuinely wished we could have split ourselves and been able to be on Twitch and also at the race, because I was like, of all the times we are not going to be live on Twitch, Charles Leclerc just overtook Max Verstappen for the lead of the race. I was like, are you joking? Because of course, I was there and I was gloating at you at the time a little bit, and I was like, oh, come on, here we go. But I wanted to do it in front of thousands of people as well.
Because you wanted some non-Ferrari pain for once.
Yeah.
People could see your joy.
And turns out you would have just seen my pain anyway. So maybe it was for the best. But yeah, we did miss you over on Twitch if you do usually tune in, because it's something we love doing. Okay, right. Should we go to your most memorable moment then, Tommy?
Let's go for it. Mine was the turn one chaos, and in particular, Max's move on Charles Leclerc. And I think Formula One actually got away with a massive controversy, the fact that Max didn't pull away. Because if Max had pulled away and won that race easily, I think the whole narrative of that race would be, should it be legal to do an illegal overtake and then just bag a 5-second penalty? To the point where, like, and Max is so good at this, like, some people, of course, like, absolutely despise him for it. But Max Verstappen, it's something Michael Schumacher did so well. He will take what is in the rules, and as long as it's in the rules, he's fine. To the point where he was literally trolling, because he knows he had an advantage there, where he got into the lead, and it's like, fine, I'll have a 5-second penalty. And he was saying that on the radio. He was like, send them my regards, or whatever he said. It was so funny. But he knows exactly what he's doing. And I think if we hadn't have had, the safety car or things change that race, this whole podcast would probably be talking about, is it fair that Max Verstappen can dive bomb to get the lead, get track position, and then because, if he hadn't have done, he might have been stuck behind him the whole race. But he could have easily just, does Formula One get to the point? I hope not, but people could push the limits and go, oh, well, I'll just straight line turn one and take a 10-second penalty, but you're not stuck behind like 10 cars for the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, there's a question from Vimesy74. What will it take to stop Verstappen running people off the road? A 5-second penalty obviously doesn't work. Drive-through penalty, disqualification. What I will say is that Verstappen's not the first nor the last person to have caused this debate. We've seen it in the past. 5-second penalties are just what is handed out for sort of small incidents, whether it's forcing someone off a track or, literally yeeting someone off can also be a 5-second penalty at times. That's a whole debate of whether the penalty system is harsh enough, depending on that. And of course, it's at the stewards' sort of discretion as to what they decide to hand out, whether it's a 5, 10, drive-through, stop-go, isn't it? I think that's 4. But it's never usually any higher than 5. And yes, it would have been the talking point. But as you say, Max Verstappen will literally do what is in the rules. But at that point, do you then get what would be a fair penalty because you can't take into account the fact he has a faster car ahead against a slightly slower car. You can't take into account any of that.
I think they have to say give it back. Like, that's what they do in IndyCar.
Yeah,
it's just like you swap the position, because then
or you're disqualified.
Yeah, well, yeah, then because you're literally giving it back. Like, you've overtaken him illegally, just give it back. Like that is just the simplest way of doing it, because then
that's actually very fair.
It's the easiest solution in the world, because they can do that. Like,
they've done it before.
They've done it before.
Michael Massey was, really, really sort of really forced the measure on that one, didn't he? But I completely agree, actually. Yeah, because I was thinking more of like what penalty could you hand out? No, you don't even need to.
You literally just get on the radio. That's what I feel like they used to do, like Charlie Whiting or whatever, like back in those days. Literally just get on the radio, say, give the position back, you won't get a penalty. Done, sorted.
Yeah,
through the easiest way.
And I guess the teams shouldn't have an option of like, well, if I don't give the penalty, if we don't give the position back, what are we going to get as a penalty?
Because then you're weighing up. It's like, this is better for me to do this.
Is it a drive-through?
Yeah, because then that gave Max and Red Bull the option, which is literally what was happening over the radio. You could hear it basically saying like, do you want to give them the place back, or take a 5-second penalty and keep the lead.
Yeah.
And he was already 2 seconds out at that point. So in his head,
the team knew as well.
Being like,
they literally said, "Oh, you're 2 seconds ahead, so just keep pushing."
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I completely agree. So just for those specific for overtakes, if it's illegal, then they should give the position back. Yeah. But obviously, when it comes to yeets, for example, that's very different.
Yeah,
I'll give the position back.
Difficult.
But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Verstappen anyway, doing that move into turn 1. Your initial reaction was, "Oh, I think he's fine." And I wanted to knock you out. But then, we saw the replay 3 more times and you went, well, actually, where's Charles going to go at this stage? He's trying to avoid contact. But Max doing what Max does, and Max will never change this. And I love how we kind of speak about his patience and the way in which he goes about his racecraft. There is nothing that will stop him from trying to pull a move to the absolute millimetre of within the rules. Because that's just the way he does. He always just bleeds off the brakes, even though in this occasion he brakes quite late and then loses the car slightly. But you know exactly what he's trying to do, which is force Charles out of the corner so that he can have the inside line.
Yeah, exactly. It's a move you practiced on Ocon as well in qualifying.
Yeah, actually, isn't it? Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it's just Max things, isn't it? And of course, that's what makes him such a divisive character in F1, because he provides the entertainment, he provides the controversy, and his driving, whether you love it or hate it, he does what Michael Schumacher did, and he's basically like, until you make this illegal, I am doing it. It's like remember Michael Schumacher doing the starts where he used to just literally just turn like that and block people, and then want him to do it. And that's exactly the same as what happened with Max with, doing this on the safety car where you're pulling alongside it. They're so similar in the fact that they would basically keep doing stuff until the FIA go, how many rules since Max Verstappen has been in Formula One have been put in because Max Verstappen does it? And then and they can't penalise him until it's in the rule book that it's illegal.
Yeah.
And he will just do it, and then he'll find something else.
And some people would argue that makes a great driver, because not only are you doing what you can on the track, but you're also not caring about what people think about you and what is fair in the,
100%.
It's unwritten rules. He doesn't care. He just cares about the written ones. So,
yeah.
And that's what gives him slight advantages at times. Let's move now to George Russell. Musto Hady 57067 asks, was George's penalty a little too harsh? I mean, there's no more lenient of a penalty you can get than a 5-second penalty when it comes to George Russell. But no, I think he was absolutely deserving of that penalty because Max was alongside. George himself said that he did not see him and therefore turned in. He was surprised by that move into that corner. He said he should have got him straight back. But it's an audacious move. That's what we want to see in Formula One, right? Max was there. He deserved the space. George just turns in. Max was incredibly lucky to come out of that pretty much unscathed, although we saw a massive chunk of Red Bull on the floor. Apparently that did not affect anything to do with his pace, but I guess it helped in a lot of ways that it was a very low downforce track anyway, and so probably didn't feel too much different in the car. But for me, I think George still did deserve that 5-second penalty because of just the sheer not thinking he was there and turning into the corner, and it could have been a lot worse.
Maybe it's the boomer in me talking that's kind of always. One thing I love in Formula One is when people make a move in a different corner. Like
Ocon as well.
Ocon. That move was amazing. I think back to Fernando Alonso at Bahrain on Hamilton. Could have easily just waited for the DRS there at the next corner. And how much more exciting is it when you go for that move? And part of me thinks the fact that George Russell just basically said he just turned in because you don't overtake there makes me think that maybe there's a new mentality in Formula One that's everyone just overtakes in the DRS, so that's when I have to be vigilant because someone might pass. So yeah, it is George's fault that he's basically just unaware that had happened basically. So thankfully for Max, it didn't damage his car too much because he's already had one hole in his side pod from contact with George, and there was a lot of debris, and that's what of course caused the safety car as well. So
yes, so actually Max Verstappen caused himself to win inadvertently by bringing out the safety car and
Controversial.
screwing Charles Leclerc over. That is a controversy right there. I'm going to full hat on.
Only Max Verstappen could do the crash to bring out a safety car to help yourself.
Yeah, it's not your teammate messing.
Yeah.
Love that. Next question, GHR112_. Were you surprised with the pace of the Alpines?
Yes.
I think they had the best setup for them to be P4, P5 during the race. Well, Tommy, who did you give the biggest flop again?
Yes, it was literally the universe just trolling me.
Every time you go against Alpine, I swear.
Every time I go, just pick a biggest flop, they become the goats. And
Can you just flop Charles Leclerc for once in your life?
Alpine should not have been good at that track. They were awful at Monza, huge straight. And then, Gasly's fighting at the front. He was very unlucky at the end. I think some people were saying he had a battery problem as well and the hard tyres weren't working. How on earth Ocon finished fourth is an actual miracle. I don't understand how it happened. I think he just avoided all the chaos.
His start, he was up to like 7th or 8th, wasn't he, by the first couple of laps? He started 16th.
Wait, there's 2 Alpines at the front. I'm sure Ocon was near the back, and it's like insane. Like, it could have been a lot more for Alpine. Gasly was extremely unlucky with the strategy and how it worked out for him, because he was
right there.
He was very good. Like, he was driving at the front, sticking with the front runners. He was brilliant, and I feel really sorry for him that he didn't end up getting a point, did it?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't get a point, which is savage, because you were. I mean, I was watching that thinking, okay, Gasly could get a podium here quite easily, and to not actually finish in the points just feels like something very drastic went wrong. As you mentioned, battery issues and strategy not working in his favour, but how just catastrophic, that's the word, of an ending for the race for Gasly. So I do feel for him. Speaking of catastrophe, Lando Norris, quick mention about him. What a strange crash for him to have had. I remember us watching, and obviously you kind of see it on the TV and whatnot, but you don't fully process the same way as you would when you sat at home. It didn't look like that big of a crash, but I guess it was such an instant impact, and then he slid for a really long time, that we're kind of like, oh, that was a kind of a big crash. Obviously he went to hospital, he got checked out, and thankfully seems like he's okay, which is obviously the main thing. But yeah, like McLaren, what on earth went on with this in the end?
Yeah, like Lando, probably the worst race he's had all year, really. Couldn't really go much worse for him. The fact that he's had the poor qualifying, and then to just make a mistake. I assume he just lost the car.
The car bottomed out apparently, and just made the car move.
It's very rare you see a moment like that where literally just lose it almost in a straight line. I know it's like a slightly like a quick like left-hander, wasn't it? But yeah, very glad he's okay after what you say. Yeah, it looked like a fairly normal incident. It was obviously dramatic, but he came up on the radio saying I'm okay and stuff. So I think I was very surprised when saw the pictures afterwards of him in hospital and stuff. But yeah, glad he's doing good.
Definitely. Let's now move to our biggest winner, whether it's a driver or a team. Esteban Ocon is definitely up there. Lance Stroll as well. We need to mention him because he had a very just Lance Stroll kind of race where he started right at the back and ends up finishing P5 in an Aston Martin that was not functioning well around this track. So I actually think that could be.
I think he's almost underrated at being the star of the race. Ocon obviously had a brilliant, but it was kind of noticeable, but Stroll's kind of gone under the radar.
Apologies for the audio, by the way. I don't know what they're doing logistically, but if it's, hopefully you can still hear us. We'll pretend that that's cars going past.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, you were saying.
Yes. What a performance from Stroll. Completely underrated, and something Alonso mentioned in his press conference afterwards, in the media pen, was like, we're still there with McLaren. It felt like that was over, and they've outscored them now in both the last 2 races.
How big is the gap now, Tommy? That's the question.
Yeah.
Oh, the F1 driver standings. Let's go to constructors. Here we
It's
go.
only
11
11
points.
Yeah, so
McLaren are ahead.
It's not completely outrageous.
So we've got a couple of storylines going into the final race. Mercedes and Ferrari, 4 points between them. McLaren and Aston Martin, 11 points between them as well.
Nice.
And will they decide to bottle it so that they can get extra wind tunnel time? We will have to wait and see. Let's now go to, so biggest winner. Who are we going to go for? Who are you locking in?
I think Stroll, yeah.
Stroll? Yeah? Good old Strolly?
Ferrari, actually, no. Ferrari, because they've really caught up with Mercedes, and I didn't think that would be possible.
Yeah, I think that's...
Even with Sainz as well, the fact that he finished 6th, so got points, beat both Mercs.
There's quite a few winners from this race. I think Perez is definitely a winner as well for the fact he was fighting for the win.
And secured that P2 in the title now as well.
Yeah. But are you going to go with Stroll?
I'm going to go with Stroll.
Okay, I'm going to lock in Ocon just to be different. Biggest loser, driver or team?
Williams, definitely.
Yeah.
How have they not scored a point?
5th and 6th on the grid. 5th and 6th on the grid. Logan Sargent.
Enormous straight.
So Albon finished 12th. Well, Sargent finished 16th.
Yeah.
Now, there was some strategy elements at play. I think Albon himself said that the drivers ahead were able to pit the drivers behind. Basically, it all didn't work out for Albon. So he was fighting cars around him with newer tyres, and obviously he made that mistake as well, which let a couple of cars through, and that was pretty much it. The minute that Williams get past, they don't have a chance of getting back. It's more about just trying to keep them at bay with that straight line speed. But my God, I cannot believe they've not scored a single point after a sensational qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely outrageous.
Okay, let's go to our predictions now that we made on Wednesday. So I was 1 point ahead going into the penultimate race of the season. Let's see how we get on. So biggest good surprise, I went for Charles Leclerc. Come on.
Fair play.
Give me that point. Give me that point. Even though they didn't win.
No.
My God, what a race. Can we just...
2 seconds off the lead, that was definitely a good surprise.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just basking in the glory. I know that he didn't win, but it was just so good to see him back there. We need to have low grip, low temperature tracks at all times. It's a good job Abu Dhabi's cold, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, it was awesome to see that happening, and people, I just want to see more of that, because you've mentioned this before, that people don't think I'm a Verstappen fan because I'm not going absolutely crazy and cheering during the races, but it's he had no competition. Believe me, if we were on Twitch for that race, you would have seen the Verstappen fan in me coming out, because he was actually racing people, and I really still, even though he's won so many races, when he was in 3rd, I was like, I want Verstappen to win.
You know what that's called? Selfish. You'd had 17 at that point. You now have 18. Give us one. But Carlos has won one race this year. Can you please stop?
Yeah. But it was awesome to watch, and yeah, Charles was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he utilised everything apart from that one small mistake, obviously, letting Perez through, and of course at the start as well. But I don't think you can really mark anything else against him. Your biggest good surprise
was Daniel Ricciardo, which was
the quietest races I've ever seen.
Literally, it wasn't even bad.
14th.
14th. It was just kind of anonymous.
He beat Tsunoda by 4 laps, so you could say.
Wow, yeah, maybe. Half a point?
No, absolutely
we
not.
Massive
No. Stop trying to Michael Massey this title. Yeah, you gotta have a big week to overhaul. So I'm now 2 points ahead going into biggest flop. Mine was Max Verstappen.
No.
Which, definitely.
If you only won by 2 seconds, you could almost claim it.
Yeah. Damn. Can you imagine that? And then yours
was Alpine, and Gasly didn't score any points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? But you went for the team again. For the team. You made it hard for yourself. You were so confident, and they went no, absolutely not, Tommy. Okay, so still 2 points ahead. Pole position, Charles Leclerc.
W. Now I went for Carlos Sainz, who of course
nearly got pole,
but then it wouldn't have been technically pole.
Yeah,
it would have got the point. That would have been interesting.
Would we need to change that segment to fastest in qualifying?
Because
right now that says pole position, and we have said many times. We've said many times that pole position does not equal pole position if it isn't pole position. Okay, 3 points ahead now, Tommy. You need to start catching up. Our top 3 then. In 3rd place, I went for Lando Norris. Unfortunately, that was not the case.
I went for Charles Leclerc, who was 3rd on the final lap, and then just ruined everything.
Thank you, Charles. In second place, I went for Charles Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc did not get the memo that we want a close prediction championship, did he?
I literally said to Charles, like, I need Charles to get back past for this point in predictions. You were like, jog on. Your second place?
It was Carlos Sainz. That was never going to happen based on...
Could have happened, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Would have been very interesting, actually, to have seen 2 Ferraris versus 2 Red Bulls. I think that's a whole different complexion.
Yeah.
Like, I think that could have, well, it would have helped Charles massively to just have...
Sainz was quick as well.
Yeah,
like,
just to have another driver
very
there.
good this weekend. So, like, it would have been fascinating. Like, I mean, we've got greedy. We're like, why don't we have a 4-car battle for the lead?
But also, it could have happened. 2 good water valves. And finally, P1. I went for Max Verstappen, which we knew was going to be a point one way or another, either flop or the top one. So that's 2 for me on that. And you went for
Max Verstappen.
Okay, so you got a point. Well done. So that now means I'm 4 points ahead as we go into our crazy predictions. So I went for unusual running of tyres, whether that was, them going for extra laps and whatnot. I could argue this, but I'm not, because we're trying to massy it. Because there was a lot of, they were running in practice, they kept doing laps. I feel like they were, even in qualifying at times, doing more than 1 lap on soft tyres and still improving, which does fit into that. However,
it wasn't anywhere near as extreme as we were predicting, was it? Already,
I don't think I really measured it, but either or, that was, if I lose by a point, I will be coming back to this to try and get it. But yes, I'll go with no points for that. And you went for?
I went for Pirelli tyre controversy, which again didn't happen. Like we thought. I can't even believe we saw the hard tyres just getting used, and that was like the optimum strategy. So yeah, it was annoying that didn't come in, but still got a very good race despite not having it. And I've just realised that those crazy predictions are from the last race, so don't read them out.
Oh, well, do you want to go and source them?
I need to watch the video again because I literally just read them from Twitter. So maybe we paste the clip from us in the car. Editor
in audio as well. We're going to post the. Okay, yeah. Well, no, actually, we're going to watch it live. We're going to screw this. We're not going to.
No, we're not.
Oh, we're not.
There's no internet.
Fine. I've got a phone. Here we go. Don't worry. We'll sort this out one way or another. Here we go. So, fill the time, Tommy. What's your 30-second review of the race?
My 30-second review of the race is I'm now very paranoid about file size on our terrible listen.
No, we got banging, so we're just going to sort that out, are we? You know what I mean? Where's Vegas not come up first? Right, here we go. 2023, Vegas Grand Prix. Your predictions. Less than 10 cars will finish was one of them, right?
Okay.
Here we go. Okay. So, Marion EB says less than 10 cars will finish.
That did not happen.
That was incorrect.
Chaos, but...
And now it's the difficult one of trying to find the next one. Alex Albon top 5 from Molchero.
That technically was in
quali. He was in quali. That's half a point, I think. We'll allow that. And then Haas, wasn't it?
It was Haas. It was Hulkenberg.
Haas double point.
Haas double point.
Haas double point. Okay. So, well, basically, we just did that, and none of you scored any points, apart from maybe a half point for the Alex Albon top 5. So, well done for that. Sorry about the fact that we didn't have it in the sheet, Tommy. God, naughty. And we will see you very soon. What is your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are: it's been one hell of a week. I am incredibly tired, but it's been awesome and good times. And now my brain's just shutting off because I know that I'm done.
Yeah, it's very tiring eating 5-star hospitality.
Yeah, smallest violin in the world.
We've had a great time. I hope you've enjoyed us keeping you up to date in our journey and our adventure. Patreon have had little updates when we were doing the Grand Toro, so I hope you enjoyed that as well. And we will see you very soon for driver ratings. This might even go out before Funniest Tweets. We will have to wait and see because, we're in Vegas and we're flying home in 6 hours, but we have to go to the airport in 3. Bye!